This is Missing Dan Nolan Lesson 4 Part 2. This is the exam question. So just a little recap on our learning objective, which was in Part 1, to learn about the contemporary staging configurations and how they apply to the performance text Missing Dan Nolan. We are looking at being able to answer a 6-mark exam question relating to staging configurations. You're going to look at exactly the same question we're going to talk about now. However, you are going to do it for a different picture. So the question is, look at the staging configuration from the photograph. Justify why this could be suitable for a production of the performance text you have studied. It's for 6 marks. I would like you to break down the question exactly the same like you did last week, using LIP, location, instruction, performance, which we are not going to talk about today, as we did that last week. So the question, I know it's for 6 marks. There are some things that I really have to do to be able to get the marks that are awarded. Anytime it's about a staging configuration, I know that I have to identify what staging configuration it is. Somewhere I have to identify. I really need to look at the detail within the image, what could be used and how it could be useful for my performance text Missing Dan Nolan. And I should really think about what I know about the features, the advantages and disadvantages of that configuration. So this is my picture that I'm going to look at now. I can see a blank canvas above the set which could be used for projections. I know that within Missing Dan Nolan, there in section 3, there are projections shown of him throughout his life. That could be really suitable for that moment. The audience are able to sit on 3 sides and observe. I know that this is a thrust stage. It thrusts out from the back, audience on 3 sides. I can identify that within my answer somewhere. There's a wooden frame in the set splitting the space into 2 rooms. I could think up at a moment within Missing Dan Nolan that could be really useful for. Also, a raised stage area separating the performers from the audience. So the performers are a lot higher than the audience. I really like the look of the edge of that stage. It almost looks wooden. And I would almost have the boys on the end there fishing off of it as if it were the pontoon. So in my example, I've just spoken about a few things that I could write about in my answer. So your question. This is your picture, this is your question, which you will find in the examples. I would like to see you breaking down the question using LIP and clearly showing it to me. It's for 6 marks, which means you should only spend 6 minutes on this. Look at the staging configuration from the photograph. Justify why this could be suitable for a production of the performance text you have studied. Now, the question has clearly identified how many points it would like you to make. So for each of those, you make 1 point, 1 justification, like we spoke about last lesson. So hopefully by now you've done all the tasks that you should have done for this lesson, part 1 and part 2. The learning objective was to learn about contemporary staging configurations and how they apply to the performance text Missing Dan Nolan. By the end of this lesson, I should have been able to identify 8 different stage configurations and explain the features of each. We looked at 8 different stage configurations in the very beginning part of this lesson in part 1. We also looked at the features and we looked at the advantages and disadvantages. So you should be able to state the advantages and disadvantages for all of those configurations. I'm also hoping by this point you've answered that exam question. You've been able to answer the 6-mark exam question relating to stage configurations.